Hello and welcome to the Super League Pom-Cast. I am your host, Jonny Lew, and this is the first of, hopefully, 12 episodes of season reviews. And there was only one place really to start with the week we've had, and of course it being my team, St Helens, with the sacking of their head coach and club legend Paul Wellens. And joining me today to go over, analyse, and talk about this is the angriest man on the best podcast in the UK, only in Rugby League. It is, of course, Callum. How are we doing, Callum? Obviously, we're recording this straight after Hull KR have just won a treble.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? You don't win a trophy since 1985, and then you win three. It's like buses, isn't it?
Not exactly, but especially in Northern England when one doesn't turn up for half an hour and then about six go past you. It's
That's
just
true, yeah.
it's just absolutely mental the season they've had, and it's been coming for a while. They've been building. They obviously had that Challenge Cup loss against Lee a couple of seasons ago, and it's kind of just them sort of occasions have probably made them stronger and made them become this season.
Yeah, there was a big thing, wasn't there? And I thought, to be honest, I thought it even up until today that how much bottle have they got and can they do it? And to me, they were lucky to win the Challenge Cup. I thought Warrington really blew it. But I think it's got them over the line and broke that hoodoo, hasn't it? And but then even so, the last few weeks, I don't think they've been spectacular. I thought they'd looked pretty tired and just not the same team that they were sort of like the first half or so of the season. And then they had a decent win against Saints last week, and then tonight they were miles in front of them. It could have gone a different way as well, to be honest, because the first 10 minutes it was all Wigan and they could have easily have been 12-0 up. Two clear bomb chances. But then after that, they steamrolled them and Wigan didn't get anywhere near.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we're not here to talk about Hull KR, though, are we?
No, we're not. No.
Here to talk about St Helens and what we have done this season, what we've alluded to, what everything's come about for the past 3 years under head coach Paul Wellens, what went wrong and everything in between. So let's start with kind of the elephant in the room. Let's start with Paul. Club legend, nearly 500 appearances, 99 tries for the club. It was part of the 4 in the row as assistant coach with Saints under Christian Wolff, under Justin Holbrook. His pedigree during that time rose spectacularly, in England, and then obviously helping coach Tonga eventually when he was head coach at Saints.
Yeah.
And I always felt when we gave it him, and I said it quite publicly, that I felt it came too early because I felt the club was in need of, we'd won the 4 in the row, we'd beat Penrith. It was kind of like everything had come to an end. So like you had obviously Christian Wolff had departed, we beat Penrith, the team was aging. There was players rumoured to be departing, the likes of Sione Matautia and stuff like that the year, and he ended up signing that 12-month extension. It just felt like it needed someone with a little bit more experience to kind of guide us through that time. It was reminiscent of when Daniel Anderson left and we appointed Mick Potter, who obviously had time at Catalans to kind of bed him in, but then he came over to Saints and it was a little bit. We had a good squad then, but it was kind of coming to the end of that dynasty. Obviously, we reached a couple of grand finals with him, but we never really achieved much. After that, it kind of felt like the same thing. You had players that needed to be moved on, and then you had players that needed to come in, and it was just kind of, I don't know, it just seemed like that sort of period. I know people compare it to the Cunningham era, but I'm thinking more like when you terms of coming out of success and the
Yeah.
successful period we had under Anderson, like it felt more like that.
I think in hindsight, I think you're probably right. I actually felt it was probably the right appointment at the time. I felt like he'd served a pretty good term as like an understudy, if you like. I felt like it was his time to step up. I thought he'd done enough time as a number two.
Yeah.
But it just all went terribly wrong, didn't it? And like you say, sometimes it's a lot harder to take over a successful team than it is to take over a team that's struggling. You know, when he took over, pretty much his first game in charge was the World Club Challenge, won it against Penrith, and he won it. And then after that, I think from a playing squad point of view, it was we'd done the 4-peat, we'd won a Challenge Cup. Then we win the World Cup Challenge, and it was all the same squad, and it was a bit like, it almost felt like the playing squad had gone like, well, completed rugby league now.
Yeah.
So not really, not that they weren't bothered, but it was like the desire and the hunger wasn't there. There wasn't a lot of signings brought in, so it was a bit like, oh, well, I'm safe. It doesn't matter what I do. I've got my position. So it all sort of drastically went wrong pretty quick, didn't it? But I think, going back to the point, I think for me, I felt like it was the right time for him to take over. In hindsight, it probably wasn't.
Yeah. And obviously his first year, he actually finished joint top, I suppose. He finished third, but
Yeah.
joint top on level points. It was points difference that ended up winning the league leaders. He was a couple of poor, ill-disciplined plays away from a grand final in that first season as well. So you look at that Catalan semi-final where Sam Tompkins scores that try. We were 8-2 up at one point, and then 3 consecutive penalties allowed them to level up.
Yeah.
And then Sam Tompkins scored after I think Matty Lees got simbin.
Yeah.
Matty Lees or Sirinen, I can't remember which one. Yeah, it was Matty Lees.
Yeah, right.
He got simbin, and then that was it. Then Tompkins, they kicked the penalty goal from that simbin, and then they obviously went on to score that try with Sam Tompkins. So his first season, you could kind of say, was not a success, but it was, there was still like promise for him.
Yeah, there was stuff to build on, especially after all this, like I said, all the success that we'd had, and to get to 2 semi-finals. I mean, the Challenge Cup semi-final for me was the problems that we're talking about in these semi-finals, the problems that we're talking about 3 years on or 2 years on. Even now, after the OKR game, it's like we were well in the game and well on top of the game, but we couldn't score points. And we couldn't get over the line and score enough points, and it's been the case like that for 3 years. I think it was Wilkin that, I'm sure it was John Wilkin that said something along the lines of, Christian Wolf has sort of come in and made us like this really strong defensive team, and we were really, really difficult to break down. But other teams have adapted that and then added more onto it, and we haven't.
Yeah. Hull KR is the perfect example that we just talked about at the start of the year. They've taken the way Christian Wolf defended with that narrow defence, compact, suffocation, effectively, and then they've added to it with flair, with speed. Speed being the most important thing, because that is one thing St Helens have completely lacked over the last 2 years. There's no strike.
No.
Wigan can hit you anywhere. Hull KR can hit you from anywhere. They could be on their own 20-metre line, make a break, and they've scored. Whereas Saints, there's none of that. There's no pace, there's no speed, and when there is speed from, say, someone like, we're going to talk about him a bit later, I'm certain, someone like Tristan Sailor, who is quick. There's no one there in support, because everyone else is slow behind, or say Jack Welsby makes a break. There's no speed to support it. So, whereas Wigan, they've got Field, French, Marshall, Hull KR, they've got Burgess, Lewis. They've got enough speed in order to go forward. Even Warrington with the likes of Matty Ashton, Matt Duffy.
Even George Williams is quick.
George Williams, exactly. And it's these sorts of things that have let Saints down, and you mentioned it before, going on like, the players that won everything. They won everything, they got rewarded for that with new deals. Sentimentality, I think, has played a big part in Saints' failures over the last couple of years with recruitment and with retention. John Wilkin alluded to it on the Bench podcast, for example, with Mike Rush when he was on, and he said about the recruitment and retention's not been good enough, and he mentioned a certain player in Moses Mbye, who is potentially one of the slowest players that I've ever seen play.
Have you ever seen a hooker have to take 3 steps before they pass the ball? All the time.
And again, but we signed a hooker who's played the majority of his career as an outside back or a fullback.
Yeah.
As a centre or a fullback. Yeah. Who's a state of origin centre. And there's been times, and we'll talk about it with team selections, but there's been times where, over the last couple of years, we've had a centre shortage, and we've not even thought about playing Moses and by what it looks like. Whether that's a case of Moses has gone, no, I'm never playing centre, or whether that's a case of the coach has gone, no, we need you as a forward. I don't know what it is, but like, to me, that was mind-boggling earlier in the year, earlier last year, when literally we had no centres and we were playing Whitley at centre for a large proportion. The year before, when we had Sione playing at centre.
Yeah.
And it was just like, well, we've got a state of origin centre in our team. We haven't even thought about it.
Not even once. Even like mid game when we've had injuries and stuff like that. Like, not even 10 seconds at centre.
A good example of that was literally the game before Hull KR. John Bennison goes off with a HIA, move Robertson to the wing, and then you keep your spine that he said was what he wanted, and stick Mbye at centre. Yeah. Like the periods, and there's injuries, and there's sort of moments where you go, what's going on? And I think I've texted you multiple times, and I've texted obviously Andy, your co-host, and Bobby, and I've just been like, what is going on with some of the team selections and some of the things? But we'll stick to recruitment for now and retention. Jonny Lomax last year got a 2-year extension, so what was effectively a 3-year deal, because he already had 12 to run. For an absolute legend of the club, I love Jonny to bits. He's one of the best halves that Saints have ever produced. If probably you look back at the halves that we have produced, and he is probably in the top 5.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think especially in our lifetime as well.
Yeah,
I think probably only a couple that beat him for me. But you're right, it's weird, isn't it? Like, you don't turn into a bad player overnight, but I think you can age overnight.
Yeah.
So to speak. And for him, I just think his body's just completely let him down. He just can't do it. He had a lot of knee injuries early on, and he has kept himself, really, really fit over the last 10 years now, probably. I think that 15 Leeds comeback was his last big one, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. But he has kept himself really fit over the last 10 years. But I just think he's gone, and I think he's been gone
18 months.
Yeah, 18, 24 months. Yeah. And it's a shame, because he gives everything, and he's captain, and like you say, he's one of the best players that we've probably produced in mine and yours lifetime.
Yeah, and the way it is the way I look and I watch the game, and you look at Jonny play, he sees what's in front of him, and he wants to do that. So you'll see it when he tries to run the line now. You'll see, oh, there's a gap here. I'll go. But his
Hmm.
legs are just not fast enough. Whereas go
Yeah,
back 3 years, he'd have been through that gap
yeah,
that's been produced and that's seen, or he'd throw that pass. Like his passing game's still good, but he's not in that position to get the pass off because there's players in and around him all the time.
yeah.
And
I was going to say his passing game's still there, isn't it?
yeah,
His speed and that has gone. I think what 19. I think 2019 for me he was man of steel, and you had players like Jackson. I think Jackson Hastings won it that year, didn't he?
hmm,
But he was public coming out saying like Jonny Lomax is the best halfback in the league,
yeah,
and he was that year. He was unbelievable. And the fact he didn't win it, I think, is a bit of a robbery. His passing game's there, and for me at the minute, he just sort of seems to become a bit of a dummy merchant.
hmm,
Like, but he can't do it for the reasons that you just said. And I'm thinking, passing game's always been bob on. What is it that's not allowing you to do that? Because the great players adapt, don't they?
yeah.
So is it the players around him? Is it the game plan? And I don't know, because the passing game's there for me, and it always has been.
It's like
And
you say,
if
the
it
best
would,
players do adapt. You look at when Scully had his knee injuries, for example, towards
yeah,
the end of his career, his game adapted. You look at
yeah.
Sean Long
Sean Long's a
with
prime
his,
example of that.
where he used to use his speed, and then he was like, nope, I've got to use my kicking game, I've got to use my passing game. And then he continued from that period of '05 to '08 for Saints, and then probably let him go 2 years too early.
Hmm.
And then he went to Hull FC and did the same thing. He's adapted his game massively. You look at over here as well when Cooper Cronk was coming to the end of his career, he did the exact same thing. And where he utilised his running game, he then started going, right, I need to look about and then need to pass more, need to kick, need to
Yeah,
utilise the other key strengths of my game because I've not got that pace anymore. So,
yeah.
like you said, whether it is the game plan that we've had over the couple of years or what, I don't know.
No, I'm not quite. Can't quite put my finger on it. It probably is that, because the way that we've been balling on for the last 3 years has been pretty outrageous, really, from what we expect from the St Helens side.
Yeah, and then we're talking about recruitment and we're talking about the retention. Last year, Conrad Hurrell got a serious neck injury,
Yeah.
and let's face it, there was multiple reports that he was going to retire at the end of the year, at the end
Hmm.
of last season. Multiple
Yeah.
reports from journalists, from people in and around the club, was that he was going to retire. There was rumours that Kev Nagama was going to come for 18
Yeah.
months. There was rumours that, basically we were out for a centre. And then it came out that I was going seeing a specialist. And then the specialist has said, yeah, you're okay to carry on. And then we offer him another 12 months. You'd think after the year we've had, we would learn from these mistakes. So
Hmm.
Conrad Hurrell didn't play again for St Helens. He went on Tour de Britain around multiple
Yeah.
championship clubs in
Yeah.
his caravan,
Yeah.
in his caravan derby at Bradford Bulls, and
And
then
his
played
oddball
against them.
speedos.
Yeah, and then played against them for the Saints reserves, which is mind boggling. But then you'd have thought we'd have learned from that mistake, and yet this year, as all reports are, that Ignatius Parsi, who's been a good servant for the club, is re-signing for 12 months.
Hmm. Who then got
Has been
dropped for the
dropped
two biggest games of the year?
because he's not good enough.
So why are we giving him 12 months?
Answers on a postcard.
Yeah. Why, why have we not learnt from that Conrad Hurrell thing? Because it's exactly the same situation. He hasn't been the same since he had his serious injuries. You
Massively.
know.
The league game has massively impacted the way his career's carried on.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Conrad Hall's been a good servant for us. I think he's been a really good signing overall.
Yeah, great.
And I think people forget. I think people forget about the neck thing.
Mm-hmm.
Were we lying about the neck thing? And he actually was, but then again, he has gone on and played for the championship things. So I suppose we weren't. So forget that. Ignore that. Why are we giving 12 months and then not letting play one single game for us competitively this year?
Even against Salford.
In the meantime, Tessie New, who was
gave him a number 3
heavily linked with Saints, has gone to Lee and absolutely tore it up.
He was linked with Saints for around about 18 months. Basically, when Christian was assistant under Wayne Bennett, he was first recommended to us.
Yeah.
And that was publicly, widespreadly known. It was reported by journalists over in Australia and over in England. And yet, we didn't go get him. And then, like you said, he signed for Lee, and he's been probably centre of the year this year.
Yeah, the fact that he didn't make the dream team was
mental,
mind-boggling for me. Yeah, you spoke earlier about Wigan strike, Warrington strike, OKR strike. This is a prime example there.
He's a unit, and he's fast.
He's a monster, absolute monster. He's
got Wonga Blake's body without the ability. He's got a lot more ability. I always said if Wonga Blake had Will Hopewati's rugby ability, or Will Hopewati had Wonga Blake's body, we'd have had the greatest player to ever play for Saints.
Yeah, if Wonga Blake had Will Hopewati's brain, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another recruitment option, for example. He was worth a point.
Yeah, that was in these 3 years, wasn't it? Yeah.
I thought that was literally last year.
Nice.
It was a weird year last year.
Wasn't it just?
But
and yet got weirder somehow.
We finished higher though, so that's an improvement.
Well, yeah. I suppose you're right.
I
suppose you're right.
So basically, all this has come down to the decision this week to sack a club legend, another club legend. Well, not sack, but not renew.
Yes,
it's a nice term of sacking a coach.
Yeah.
Because basically, he got told earlier in the year when I'm assuming the pressure was on, when people were calling for his head that they were going to give him till the end of the year, but he had to make the grand final. Which was the clause that was reported by multiple journalists. I believe it was in All Out Rugby League as well, that was the clause in a new deal. So we didn't make the grand final, so he's been let go. We talked about the retention and recruitment, square pegs in round holes, with the signing of, for example, Tristan Sailor, as we mentioned before. He's played a couple of games at 6 for Brisbane. He played a lot of his junior rugby at 6 for Brisbane.
Yeah.
However, his best position is probably fullback, as we've seen this year with the stats that he's produced from that position. 30 try assists this season for Tristan Sailor, 17 tries.
His stats on paper are excellent.
Yeah. When Welsby got injured, he slotted in at fullback, and he was immense. He got player of the month.
Yeah, looked really, really good, yeah.
And then Welsby came back in, and both players seem to be a shell of themselves for some reason. I don't know what that reason could be, whether it's a confidence thing, whether it's I just don't know why them two can't play together. I refuse to believe that they can't play together. They are two exciting players. They are two creators. They have all the attributes to combine well, whether one's at 6, one's at fullback. But for some reason, when we attack, whether it is the game plan, and I'm assuming it is the game plan, because I physically find it impossible for these two players not to play for each other. I think the games complement each other as well. One's a running half with a good cut-out pass, and the other one's a creative fullback.
Which one's which, though? I think that's the problem, isn't it? And I think that's what they can't decide on. Tristan Sailor, through no fault of his own, has really upset the balance of the squad for whatever reason. Because, like you said, they can't, or they haven't done anyway, they haven't been able to play well together on the same pitch. For me, I think they're both ones, but I think Sailor is more likely to be a 6 than Welsby. I don't think Welsby can play a 6. I don't think he's got the passing game.
Yeah.
The amount of interception that he throws when he plays 6.
Because he's not got that extra half a yard of space.
Yeah. But like you said, I think both of their best attributes are popping up into space and bursting through and popping up into space rather than creating the space.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of them are better at popping up into space than creating it. But Jack Welsby is the best fullback. So does that answer your question? Like, is he the one?
Well, you've just said it. You just said the one that's more than likely to play 6 is Tristan Sailor, attribute wise, and the better fullback is Welsby.
Yeah.
So why is it that when, apart from the first 3 games, we've not tried Tristan Sailor back at 6? What is that reason?
Don't know.
The club haven't come out and said it, so we can only speculate. So, because when Jack came back, he basically subbed him off after 20 minutes.
And when he subbed him off, he was probably the best player on the pitch.
Playing 6?
Yeah.
So what was all that about? He was playing 6 that day, and he was best player on the pitch, 35 minutes in, subbed him off, never sitting again, until we got an injury in the 72nd minute. And then he came on, I think, at fullback, and we scored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he finally got the ball.
Yeah, I know we've sort of mentioned about, or we will do anyway, sorry, his man management, Wellens' man management. I think this is a really good example that you can circle back to when you start talking about that, because I think there's a few of them. I think there's a few examples
fuming
like
as well
this.
That day.
Yeah, and didn't he only came back on because didn't
Dagnall did his hamstring.
Dagnall, that was it. Yes, Dagnall did his hamstring and he had to come back on, and he come back on the wing. Dagnall didn't get injured. He ain't coming back on the field, is he? And I think after me, I remember turning to whoever it was that was sat next to me that night and saying, I think if that was him, I think that would be the end of the line for me. You've just been announced Player of the Month. You get, and then
the week before that game,
yeah, literally like 3 days earlier, you get announced as Player of the Month. Then you play in the match, and you're the best, probably the best attacking threat on the pitch, and then you get hooked. I'd have been
for an aging halfback.
Seriously, what else have I got to do?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the other problem of why neither of them can play 6. Because Lomax hasn't been performing. Moses Mbye is just sort of, like you said, a square peg in a round hole when he plays 7. And the only reason he really plays 7 is because he can boot the ball further than anybody else.
Yeah.
For him, when we're in our own half, he can kick it the furthest. I'll just stick him at 7
he only ever uses the one kick, which is oof it as high as I can and hope the wind takes it.
Yeah.
It's not really a kicking game.
It worked against Chris Hankinson at Edinburgh, so
yes.
that's what I'll say.
Yeah, that's true.
80% of the time, it works every time.
But it's just we'll talk about the man management and Paul Wellens' errors over the course of his tenure, because he's a learning coach. 3 years into your career, you're still learning every single day. But I think his main issue was mistakes that he's made he never properly learnt from.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about team selections, for example, and use of it. And when Iggy Parsi was not performing at the very start of the year and last season as well, and we had a young lad who was chomping at the bit in Noah Stevens. Whenever he came on, he only had 5-10 minute spells, and that was it. I get managing the minutes of youngsters. I get it. But when you've got a player that's underperforming as much as Iggy Parzi has this last 18 months, how can you refuse to play a player like Noah?
I don't think you can. I think
Obviously
the
he had
fact
his
that he
injuries
hasn't.
this year, so
Yeah, he
his
had
thumb injury.
surgery on his thumb, didn't he? But even prior to that, like you say, he'd only get 5 or 10 minutes if he got selected. He spent most of the season 18th man or worse. And you're right, you do have to manage your minutes for your youngsters, especially in front row. Because they are, I think, what is he? He's just turned 21 or something. It was his birthday last week or something.
Yeah, I think so.
So,
he's coming into, really, he should be getting a lot more minutes at that age.
Yeah,
now,
you just sort of try and defend it if you can. You could argue that, well, he's still growing into his body because he's not even 21 or wasn't 21.
Delaney was 19 and playing every single week.
But he's for his age, he's an absolute monster, isn't he? He's a proper meter eater.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, Stevens is better than Delaney. I don't think Delaney's kicked on as much as I would have liked him to. But again, he's only 21, 22. I think he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but I think Stevens is better.
Yeah, but they're two different players.
They are two very different players. And again, when you don't pick Stevens and you have Lees and Walmsley as your starting prop, and he's done it numerous times this season. Matty Lees
and last season, and the year before. The exact same player, Lees and Delaney. Exact same.
You can't have both of them. For me, you can't have both of them on the pitch at the same time. Because for me,
they don't complement each other.
No, you need that slimmer, quicker prop who will get you, a couple of yards, but not great on impact, play a lot of minutes, do a lot of tackling, a workhorse, if you like. And I think to complement that type of prop, you need a Walmsley, a Stevens, a Parzi, because that's what he is. You need a meter eater and who's going to bust tackles. Matty Lees isn't busting many tackles, is he?
No.
But he's going to do 60 tackles a game.
And play 80 minutes.
Yeah. But you can't have Lees and Delaney because you can't make any meters. The amount of times we struggled to get out of our own half because we haven't really got that monster prop forward. And yet we never learnt from it. So when Parzi's underperforming, like you say, the fact that he's not been picking Stevens is criminal. And it's the man management side of things and the team selection things where I don't feel sorry for Wellens. I wanted Paul Wellens to do so well because of who he is and what he's done for the club. Everybody wanted Paul Wellens.
There is not one St Helens fan that wanted him to fail.
No. And obviously not everybody's perfect, blah, blah, but this is the stuff that he can manage. We'll get onto the stuff that he can't manage and the people above him and stuff a little bit later on, I'm sure. But the things that are in his control, he hasn't dealt with very well for the majority of his time, I don't think. And I think you can look back at numerous occasions with different players. The earliest one for me that I can remember is Joey Lussick, which is how Moses Mbye came into the club anyway. Because he upset Joey Lussick that much for not picking him. I think it was away at Hull FC. And put Knowles at 9. He'd left Rowley out. Put Knowles at 9. Not even put Lussick on the bench. Lussick weren't even in the match day squad. And then Lussick went, well, I'm not doing that. Parramatta are interested in me because they've got injuries, so I'm going to go back home.
Yeah.
And then we go, oh, okay, well, we'll just bring Moses Mbye in to play 9. Oh, you mean that bloke who's never played 9 before? Yeah, he'll be right. He's played NRL, mate.
He played like the last 6 months at 9.
Yeah.
For St
He's
George.
played Origin. He'll be fine.
Yeah. He can adapt.
Yeah.
I actually was looking at Moses Mbye's career history, and when he started off as a hooker in junior rugby, and then didn't play hooker again for about 10 years or 12
That's because
years.
his under-10s coach went, "You're too slow to play 9."
and then started being a bench halfback slash fullback utility sort of player. And then
He's one of them, and he hasn't really got a
centre,
position,
winger,
but he can play footy a bit.
6. Yeah. He's just a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
But but again, we're talking about that sort of the Joey Lussick thing and a few other players. But we at the minute we've got a football coach in our team that we support who is under a lot of pressure. A young coach, and he's adamant that he's got to play this way of playing, and he's adamant that he's got to do this, and if he doesn't do this and we keep losing and he gets sacked, then so be it. He's stuck to his philosophy. There are parallels to... We were talking about Ruben Amorim for Manchester United. There are parallels to him and Paul Wellens, I believe.
Yeah.
Because Paul Wellens is very much, nope, we win our rugby by doing this, this and this.
Yeah.
We win trophies by doing this, this and this. And he never has alternated away from that in big games against big teams.
No.
He's stuck to the same game plan, and we talked about it where John Wilkins said, teams have added to Christian Wolf, is Wolf ball.
Yeah.
Saints haven't. And under Christian Wolf, we actually scored quite a fair few points in big games as well.
Yeah.
But under Wellens, it just seems to be, no, we'll grind him out, we'll get a chance in the last 5-10 minutes. And then the last 5-10 minutes we'll start playing, and then we'll score a few tries, which worked against Leeds, for example, in a game where we really should not have even had a sniff. But in the vast majority of big games over the last 2 years, it has not worked. And I think he's also paid the price for that sort of thing and never really adapting from an outsider's point of view to the games around him, which I just that to me is what sums up. And there are massive parallels between Amorim and Paul Wellens.
You're right. And I think the better coaches adapt and know how to adapt. So it's either just the pair of them being really stubborn or they don't know how to adapt.
Paul Rowley used to do it when he was first started, when he was at Lee, and he went to Toronto and he went, nope, I've got a way of playing and that is it. And then as he moved on and as he got older and as his coaching experience grew, he's now mellowed, learned and adapted his game to become one of the best coaches in the league for what he's achieved at Salford with the budgets and constraints he's had. And coaches can learn. They learn slowly, they learn quickly. And I just hope that this spell as Saints coach, whatever way Paul Wellens goes, whether he goes to rugby union, whether he goes to Australia and becomes an assistant, whether he goes to whoever else, I hope he learns from that.
I think he won't be short of a job, whatever it is, because I think obviously he knows his stuff. I think he's a tremendous number 2, because you can sort of be a bit more pally with the playing group a little bit, I think, can't you? Mm-hmm. And I think he can walk that really well. I think it's a bit different when you're number 1. I think he's an excellent number 2, which is why people like Christian Wolf wanted to bring him in at Tonga. I think, was he not doing stuff with England prior to that and then defected to Tonga? So, to be asked to come and do national stuff when you've already got national jobs, I think speaks a lot for him. And I think he is a good number 2. And like you say, I think league men always do well in rugby union because not how to tackle. That's why they bring him in, isn't it?
Yeah. That's why they're always defensive coaches.
Yeah. So I think he won't be short of a job no matter where he goes, where he ends up, like you say. But just, Yeah, I don't know whether it was because he didn't know how to adapt to it. But yeah, for me, Wellens had a really good 2 and 3 next to him as well, if you want to call him that. Obviously, he had 2 really good assistants. I think Eamon O'Carroll's done a pretty decent job as, if you want to call him defence coach. I think he's done a pretty decent job. Yeah, I know we've leaked quite a few points and things like that, but I think there's been times where we've looked really good. And again, that could sort of come down to the calibre of players. Again, Lee Braze,
CV speaks for itself.
This absolutely baffles me, the Lee Braze situation.
Mm-hmm.
Did well
everywhere.
Warrington, Wigan, Brisbane, points galore, brilliant in attack, sexy rugby league. It's what you want to see. It comes to Saints, and he can't score more than 1 try against big clubs. So is that down to Wellens? Is that down to is he just not having as much input as? Is he being suffocated? Is he not being listened to? I don't know. Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? But it's quite obvious to see what the problems were when you go in. What did it end up being? 23 games or something against Wigan, OKR, Warrington, and Lee.
We couldn't even beat Warrington when they were that bad this year.
They're like 7 in a row against Saints or something.
Yeah.
And they finished 10th or something stupid. They've got a coach who's arguably worse than ours.
Yeah. Oh, there's no arguably about it. He is. But the thing is though, right? I don't think Paul Wellens, and I believe this, I don't think he ever lost the playing group.
No.
I think the playing group all believed in him, which is where Sam Burgess, for example, I think has.
And I think,
looking in.
I know this is sort of going a bit off topic, but I think if Sam Burgess loses you or you lose him, there's no coming back from that. He's not the type of guy to put his arm around and go, "Oh, soz, mate." Like, do you know what I mean?
No.
He's just going to blow smoke in your face or something.
Yeah, blow that vape into it. Hot boxing outside the house.
Yeah. Allegedly.
That's one good thing about Billy Smith if he gets picked for England. Sam Burgess can't get near the stadium.
Yeah, every cloud.
But yeah. So Paul's made his mistakes. He's done a lot of good as well.
Yeah.
I think he's developed players like I think as much as Delaney's been let down, like over the course of the 3 years that Wellens has been there, he's developed hugely into one of the best players in one of the best props in Super League for the things he does off the bench. He gave him not his debut because that was under Christian Wolff against Cass when we rested everyone, but he gave him like his first proper appearances, and he's from there. And then there's other players like Harry Robertson's come on leaps and bounds over the last 18 months.
That kid's a freak.
Yeah, I think you could put Sam Burgess in charge and he'd be a world beater still. And then you've got obviously...
They world beater?
Oh,
sorry. I thought I'd miss it.
There's an edit. But
not allowed back on now.
But Owen Dagnall, of course, this season has been an unreal person. But again, he's a player that should have probably debuted sooner than he did. If it wasn't for the hamstring injury as well.
I think there's sometimes with some youngsters, he really hasn't played them till his hands have been like properly forced. Yeah. Like Dagnall for prime example of that. I think he should have probably had some game time a lot earlier. Mm-hmm. Johnny Vaughan as well. There's another one.
Don't speak about him on our podcast.
He's gone now, but again, he could have had more minutes.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the reasons why he did go.
But like I say, I think his management as
Sambu as well, another player.
Yeah, Sambu is another one who could have probably had a few more games under his belt. I think his management at times is shocking. and I think there's a few people. I think Sailor's been mistreated through the course of the season. Sick, obviously left under a cloud. Evans.
And one player
Again.
in particular that should have been playing, especially towards the back end when we did change the halves, is George Whitby.
George Whitby, yeah, he's been.
What was it you guys were saying, and that I agreed, were like we went through that period of having Mbye at 7 for what, 9-10 games?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And basically, the week before Leeds just dropped him from 7 and then just went, nope. Lomax, Sailor and Welsby, which is what it was at the very start of the year.
Yeah. So it made all them games that Mbye played at 7
Pointless.
completely obsolete.
May as well give it George
Whitby. What exactly? You could have given it
he
George
was 18th
Whitby.
Man for a chunk of them.
Yeah. So we could have gone, there you go. There's the 7 jersey, metaphorically. There's a 7 jersey. Go and have a run of games. And then we could have been in a position here now, because obviously if you'd have had a string of 10 games in a row, he'd have been a better halfback after them 10 games than he was at the start of the 10 games.
And
so
coming we could have been going next year.
And coming into next year, which in the long run is hugely important. But then we could have been going into the playoff short term. We could have been going into the playoff with a young halfback who hasn't really got any fear, because they never really do they? Look at Lewis, for example. Hasn't got any fear. His kicking game's got better. His tackling's got better. His organising's got better. And then who knows? We could have gone to Leeds, not won in the last minute and rolled them. And then you never know. We could have gone away to OKR and he could have guided us around the field, and we could have been at Old Trafford this evening.
George Whitby should have been our 7 this year.
100%. 100%. I think if you're going to change stuff from the original spine that you had, for me, he's next in line. There's nobody else that I know. We've ended up with Mbye there, but you've brought him in to play 9. So who's your next 7? So why are we not doing that?
And also, do you think if he wasn't under so much pressure from the fan base, from those above him, do you think if he wasn't under so much pressure, he'd have gone with Whitby? Because it felt like he just went with the safe option of Moses Mbye. The experience, the knowledge.
It's a good question, and I suppose we'll never...
big position. I know we'll never know, but as a theory...
It's a great question, and like you say, we'll probably never know. But I think you're probably right. I think you could argue that, yes, he was under that much pressure. He felt like he had to choose players that he could trust and that have got the experience. If he wasn't, say we'd have won the grand final or the Challenge Cup or whatever in 24, and he had a bit more time, then he might have gone, do you know what, we'll just throw caution to the wind a little bit and we'll stick George in there and see what happens. Because I don't think he'd let you down. And I think the trust thing is massive, especially when we spoke about Stevens, because he just didn't seem to trust him despite being short of props and him dropping one of the few props that we had. I think it did come down to trust.
Safe.
Yeah.
And trust.
Yeah.
And experience.
I think experience was a big part of that.
Yeah.
Big part of that.
But we've talked about Paul, and unfortunately it is the end of the road and we are going to have to move on. We'll go on and talk about options about that. I want to go more in depth into recruitment, into those above him and the factors that he could not control. The retention deals, mind-boggling. The signings, more so, mainly because they've been so non-existent as well. Like you talked about before, the players winning everything, completing everything. Now squads evolve and constantly change. Even like you look at Wigan now, for example, didn't make any signings in the off seasons.
No. And then ultimately haven't won any trophies.
They've not won a trophy. Yeah. They won all 4 last year. 1.5. Yeah. So you look at that. You look at back in the heyday of like Sir Alex Ferguson. we'd always make a couple of signings and change and move on and do that. You look at Liverpool last season, winning the league. They've made and spent a fortune, granted, but made 6 signings for this year, along with bringing through youth. But Real Madrid always make one big signing a year. You go throughout all of sports, and the big clubs always evolve, move on, sign, adapt, because you need that fresh hunger. Like, really, the only major signing we made over the last couple of years is Darryl Clark to replace Rowley, who had that hunger and that desire, and is still one of the best 9s in the competition.
He is, and I think that was probably the safest route to go, wasn't it? And I think it's turned out all right. Like you say, I still think he's been pretty good, but I do think that we're running him into the ground.
Yeah, because he's playing 80 minutes a week, basically.
Yeah. Because the bloke that we brought in...
Put him at centre 1 week and put him by at 9.
Yeah,
again,
we did.
That mind-boggling decision.
You're right. Because
when we had Mbye at State of Origin centre and put Darryl Clark, who's never played there.
Yeah. It's just crazy. You know, like I say, we're running into the ground. He's having to play 80 minutes because the bloke that we brought in to spell him for a bit, he's having to play 7.
Yeah. And it's just the recruitment, and you're looking at it this year, mate. We had 10 players out of contract, and we know that well, 3 of them, 4 of them that have officially left and gone in Benison, Batchelor, in Bell,
yeah,
and obviously Vaughan, Sambu, that all came out earlier on this year. But we've got basically
Mbye. Did you say Mbye?
Mbye, yeah. So we've got 4 major squad players in them 4, plus a couple of fringe players. So, and we also didn't replace players that left previously. You look at Sione Matautia, for example.
Still not replaced him.
Who was such a utility, such a good player. 2 years on, not replaced him. So we needed basically 2 second rows. Morgan Knowles as well. How did I forget Morgan Knowles? 5 players.
Yeah.
The biggest name.
I keep trying not to think about that.
I know, I keep thinking he's not leaving. He can't leave us. Clinging on to him. I'm definitely going a few Dolphins games next year just to see him. I want to see him rip it up, man. But
I think he will. I think they'll love him.
But we need a loose forward. We need a hooker, or we're giving Jake Burns the backup hooker role. Which I
wouldn't mind that. I don't think. I think
he's a better player than Mbye.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a hooker for a start.
Yeah. Quicker. That's not hard though. But like, genuinely, man. But what's it called? But obviously we're losing these 5 big players, and the only one really that's been announced is an underwhelming signing from Australia in Hoss. Jacob Hoss, who in his last game he played for South Sydney got banned on 3 separate charges from the same game.
Some going that.
And I went to that game and he was crap. But he's only played 8 games in an injury hit season for the Bunnies.
Yeah, I mean, does that not tell you all you need to know when you look at all the injuries that they've had, and he can only just about manage one more game than Lewis Dodd.
Yeah. I've had literally no squad whatsoever. And like, but he's really been the only one we've been linked with. Obviously, we've been linked with the likes of Josh Papalii. That it feels like we put all of our eggs into that basket because he told his State of Origin teammates that he was going to St Helens. He told his Canberra teammates he was going to St Helens. He told the press he was basically off to England. Ricky Stewart told the press he was off to England. Everything was agreed, done and dusted as far as the press were concerned. And more than likely, Josh, when Cameron Munster's at the celebration going, oh yeah, well, Billy will have to phone up England and get him over for next year's Origin. And then he's backflipped and signed a 12-month lower deal to stay at Canberra. So all of our eggs were in that basket. And it's like we've gone, oh shit. who do we get now?
But even with that, we've been linked with like a couple of forwards. Regan Campbell Gillard was another one. I know they weren't as
He's
heavy,
gone to
but
London.
he's definitely linked. He's gone to London. Havili, we were linked with that. Havili, he's gone to London.
I'm glad
I'm not
about
bothered
that one,
about
though.
that. I'll be honest, not bothered about that. Right, but the links
Kamika now going to South Sydney, reportedly.
Yeah, and he'd be willing to take a 250 grand a year cut on his salary to stay in the NRL. We'll stay there, not bothered.
Yeah.
Stay there, But the links are weak, aren't they? The signings that we're linked with are poor. But the Papalii one, like I say, there's a couple of forwards there. Papalii, Regan Campbell Gillard, the Kamika one, all front rowers. Why are we signing a front rower and giving a 12-month deal to Parth? Because does that not push Stevens further down the pecking order the way
Leon
it's been
Cohen.
going? Leon Cohen, another one.
Jake
just
Wingfield,
a bit odd.
for example.
Wingfield, yeah. I think he'll probably end up being the 13. But...
I think it will be now. I think the lack of signings is definitely edging more towards Jake Wingfield being our number 13, which I'm happy about. I think he's a really good player for us. I think he's very underrated. His issue is, as we all know publicly, is his injury record, which we can only go off a player that we spoke about earlier in Johnny Lomax earlier in his career. Amount of injuries he had. Matt Percival as well. Fans were calling for him to leave early in his career with the amount of injuries he had.
Yeah.
So I just hope that, he turns out to be one of them and that ends up pushing on and doing that. And I think he could well become a good 13 for us, but we still need someone.
I think Wingfield's best position is off the bench because he can play anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere in the front row, second row.
Anywhere in the pack. You could stick him at 9. He's done a job at 9 before.
He's done really well. He's done better than Mbye at 9 when he's played.
But I think depending on who you sign as your 13, I think you could probably bring him off the bench or even start him at 13 if you want and move him anywhere. But I'm just thinking that if you brought him off the bench, he's fresh. But he could go into any role and he can just bump, he can do it.
So really, Saints, and we never replaced Lewis Dodd last year. And it looks like, we're still not going to replace him because it looks like who's going to be our 7 next year with no idea. Because if we get a new coach, I hope he gives Whitby the reins.
It has to be, surely.
But really, we need an outside. We need at least one more outside back.
Yeah.
At least one more. A centre, ideally. Hopefully that
instead of
Hurrell.
Okay, right. Sorry, I thought you meant like a starting centre.
Well, yeah. And then we can always move Robertson to 6.
But then what do you do with Sailor?
Whatever we've done this year and fucking mess him about.
I would, I'd actually try and I think I would genuinely try and look at offloading Sailor. I think he's a great player. I think he could be a good player, but for some reason he upsets the balance of our team.
Mm-hmm.
And I
if
think
you stick Robertson, who's more of a natural 6.
I think Robertson has to be in the spine, and I would rather lose Sailor than lose Robertson.
But then you need an experienced half. You can't go with Whitby and Robertson for a full year.
But then you're going into next. But Tristan, our experience is Tristan Sailor. Like even in that, especially in the half,
he's had over
20. Has he not had like 28 games in the NRL or something?
Well, he's had over 100 if you include Queensland Cup, New South Wales Cup, which is a higher experience level than reserves and academy.
Yeah. But yeah. So I think for me personally, I think I would keep Robertson at centre for 12 months and say, we'll run Sailor's contract down and then we'll move you to 6.
But you can't have like Dion Cross as your starting centre.
No, I'd have Percival Robertson. Personally, I'd have Percival Robertson and I would have Fell and Dagnall. I think Dagnall should get the 5.
Would you go... Yeah, well, Felt's going to stay anyway, but I was going to go, would you go Murphy and Dagnall on the wings? Just
possibly.
go for pure pace.
I think...
Not much size and
again, questions over Murphy's fitness. He's worse than Wingfield. He's always injured. unfortunately. You could go if one of them can play on the right, because I think both of them are naturally left wingers, aren't they? But if one of them can play on the right, which I imagine they could do, you could do that. I think depending on what happens with the pack and the game plan, our game plan at the minute, and a lot of teams do it, every team do it anyway. You catch the bomb, take it in. First two drives are always like your wingy centre. If you play Murphy and Dagnall, there's not a lot of size there. At least with Felt, he can carry it out a bit, despite him being probably the laziest winger I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And if they play that bloody Rhinestone Cowboy song the next time he scores, I'm going to go ballistic. He doesn't play for him anymore. Move on. He doesn't know. Move on. He's not a cowboy anymore.
It's all right. He only ever scores versus Salford anyway. What is it? 20,
And they won't be in
22,
next year, so he's no
22
chance.
tries and about 50 for Salford. But again, recruitment retention, it's not been good enough. We're going into next year with basically like who knows what squad. Like I don't even know if the people at the top know what squad we've got next year, which is why I also think they've took the decision to remove Wellens, mainly because I think they know personally that they've A, not given him the right tools at the minute, and B, next year they definitely won't have the right tools.
Some of the decisions from upstairs have been crazy. This is where I do feel sorry for Wellens, because I don't think he had a great deal with recruitment. I think that was up to a certain somebody. Who thought it was a good idea to have like 50 players off contracts at the end of this season?
We came into the start of this year with 17 players off contract. That should never happen in any sport whatsoever.
Who thought that was going to work out well?
It's never going to work out well. And then you're basically playing a catch-up game because them players are free from the 1st of November last year to go, right, well, let's go get new deals, as Sambu, as Vaughan did. Two players that we basically just thought, they'll renew, the St Helens lads. In my eyes, that's exactly what I believe has happened, is they go, the St Helens lads, they'll renew, don't worry, and then they've gone and signed for a rival. You look at Jake Wingfield being reportedly after by Lee and negotiating with them, and apparently he signed a 12-month extension with Saints, which is good for us. But you talk about these players that can just basically go and have a free-for-all from the 1st of November. And you've got 17 of them to try and go, oh shit, who do we keep, who do we go? You look at Morgan Knowles, for example. He should have been a player that should never have been coming off contract.
Yeah.
You look at Lewis Dodd last year, for example, when he left. He should have been a player that, we had locked in for an extra 2 years. Because he could develop a little bit more. He could have shown exactly what he really was as a player. He could have developed more, and we'd have had a halfback for this season coming in. And then we weren't to know
he had the world's greatest agent, though, were we?
Literally, man. And he's not even with him anymore.
Is he not?
No, he's changed agents. Mate, the most mental.
Thanks for nothing, mate.
Yeah, but for example, and then Tristan Sailor signing wouldn't have happened, and then we'd have had a stable 1, 6, 7, and 9 throughout the course this year, and this year would have looked different. So what's next year going to look when we've got them 5 big players leaving, we've got 2 fringe players leaving? What do we look like next year? Because we're going to need an outside back, because you've got Benison left, Hurrell left.
Yeah.
So there's 2 outside backs. We've signed Dion Cross, which takes 1 out. Obviously, we've got Dagnall coming through. We've got Murphy, but again, like you said, the question marks on the fitness.
Yeah.
You've just, for me, you've got to sign an outside back. You've got to sign a prop, because we never replaced Sione 2 years ago. You've got to sign a 13. you've got to sign another second row. Like you've got to sign them players and potentially signing an experienced half.
I think obviously the big one is the 13, isn't it? And the players that
The
were being
elephant in
linked,
the room.
the player that we're being linked with, or seems most likely to sign at this moment in time, is Oliver Partington, which is just, I mean, you're never going to get a Morgan Knowles. I don't expect that. But surely we can do better than that.
Who's available?
Surely.
Even Partington's technically not available.
Well,
So it's who like as a club though, like we were saying, where you've got these players off contract, your mind's spinning with, right, well, what's that? And I always come back to a statement that one of our board members, who's very publicly in the limelight, when he stated at a fans forum in I want to say 2023, where he was on about the salary cap and the squad and going, yeah, we know what our squad looks like in 5 years' time. So talking about the junior pathways, talking about the players that we currently had. I don't think they envisaged the likes of Dodd, Knowles and co moving on in 5 years' time. So in 2027. I think they envisaged them at the club. I think they envisaged a couple other players at the club, the likes of Sambu and Vaughan. I don't know if they did, but I'm assuming they would have at that time, because Vaughan was captain in the England youth, for example.
I think he captained Saints as well.
Captain Saints,
that you mentioned that Castleford
in the grand
game.
Final as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that Castleford game where we rested everybody.
I
think he was captain.
Wasn't that Sam Royal?
Oh, Royal, that was it. That's who I'm thinking.
Royal captained everyone.
You're right. Yeah.
Don't even know what he's doing now. I don't even think he's in rugby league anymore. But like Vaughan captained us in the grand final last year, the reserves grand final.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was captain in England, and now he won't be part of us. He's now at Wigan for 4 years at least. But he talked about how he knows what the squad is for the next 5 years. I don't think any of that's gone to plan, and I know in sport things don't go to plan. But 17, if you know what your squad is like in 5 years, you wouldn't have 17 players off contract.
No, I think that's just it's either very naive of him to just assume that then players will re-sign because they're at St Helens. It's just stupidity, isn't it? I think it's obviously the latter, to have that many players off contract come the end of this season. And even with the coach, what kind of
environment does that give?
Yeah, and what kind of, with his contract, what kind of
confidence
thing is that? Is it to go, oh, if you don't make the grand final, we're not renewing your contract? Or you mean the grand final that's in October? Like, how are we supposed to plan forward if he doesn't make it, which he hasn't done? So if your stipulation is you're not getting a new contract if you don't make the grand final, and you make it to the semi-final, how are you supposed to prepare for that and bring a new coach in? And what direction does that new coach want to go in? What kind of players does that new coach want?
And Jacob Host, when he signed and released a statement, said how he spoke to Wellens about the club, and as soon as he heard about it and everything about it, he wanted to be part of it.
Yeah.
So if he's speaking to the head coach at the time and has signed on the basis of that conversation from the head coach, and then the head coach isn't there next year, how are you going to recruit now? How are you going to... So we've got them players that we need. How are we going to recruit unless they've already signed? But there's no whispers of already signed. Usually there's whispers everywhere.
Yeah, we're either extremely, extremely good at keeping things quiet and in-house, or we've just not even bothered, and it just seems like we've not been bothered. The planning going forward is just not there. I know it's just not there though, is it? Like, you've got an head coach, you don't know he's going to be there or not.
And if you have signed them, or you do know that, and you know what's going on, they talk about outside noise all the time, which is the fans and the media. So outside noise is basically, we don't care about the outside noise. So you don't care about your fan base, is what you publicly say. These are people who are high up in the club, labelling it outside noise. You've got the chairman that's labelled it. You've got the CEO that's labelled it. You've got the head coach that labelled it. You've got the vice captain that's labelled it as outside noise, which is basically the club creating a divide between the fan base and itself. That divide has never been higher than it has this season through them two words, in my personal opinion. And if you know that they're disgruntled, that they're upset, and you haven't announced any renewals, they've only announced players departing, so that only breeds negativity. It only breeds a negative environment. If you've already got the likes of... So we've already announced those that have departed. So Sirenen's re-signed. So Jake Burns has re-signed.
Whitley.
So Jake Wingfield's re-signed. So Whitley's re-signed. Why aren't you...
obviously, we mentioned that.
Well, yeah, the Parsi probably won't bring the house down on good news.
No, but, it's another re-signing, isn't it?
But they announced, like, the young lads as a retaliation that early in the season.
Yeah.
In my opinion, as like a retaliation to the Sambu and Vaughan reports. That's what it felt like to me. Was that got reported, and suddenly in the week or two after, we'd announced Whitby, Stevens, Dagnall, and who's the fourth one on 4-year deals?
Robertson
on 4-year deals. Was like literally the week after, and then a few weeks after that, Matty Lee's renewal got announced when he was heavily linked to Warrington. So they're the only renewals we've announced so far. So then we still had 12-hour contracts. So Leon Cohen, for example, must be staying. Otherwise, we'd have done a goodbye post about him.
He's another one as well when we talk about man management. Put him on the bench, playing for 2 minutes.
and he gets half the meters of Iggy Parsi. But like, why don't you drip feed these announcements throughout the course of the year? Why are you saving them up for some reason? Because you've announced all the players that are leaving, so all the fan base know that they're staying. So why don't you just announce them one by one and go, you know what, let's get a bit of momentum going into a semi-final, bit more good news about the club, bit more, get the fans back on side and behind the club. Whereas instead they've announced nothing, and the only thing they've announced is that the head coach, who's a club legend, who's got a lot of love with the fan base, is leaving. So really, that can also be taken as negative news, because it's a negative thing about the club.
Yeah.
There's no positivity at all.
So what is the where we are now? What is the plan with announcement, like the social media side of things, if you like? What is the plan with that? Like, because there's been nothing on 26 memberships, which I bet they are absolutely. I bet the bumholes like putting that one out. There's nothing on the memberships for next year. There's nothing on re-signings. There's nothing really on signings. There's nothing on a new coach. And I know we've obviously just announced, but what's the plan? Because every single one of those things has to happen.
And you've only got
maybe the new signings, because we might not make any. But you would imagine we would.
And you've only got 4 months till the new season.
Yeah.
And you've only got 2 months till pre-season, because it starts before Christmas.
Well, I was just going to say, you need that, because you're going to get most of your membership stuff before Christmas as Christmas presents. Surely.
And if you're signing players from Australia, they've got to come over. Obviously they get a house given to them. They've got to move in. They've got to move the families, the girlfriends, the kids. They've got to move the partner's parents. If you're Kyle Felt, they've got to move. They've got a lot of logistics to sort out. So if you are signing players from Australia, they need to know way in advance. Look at Kyle Felt. We announced him in August, for example, last year.
Right.
So you look at them sort of players that we've announced previously. They've always been late-ish, but they've always been like August, September.
Mm-hmm.
Like Matt Whitley and Darryl Clark, when we signed them, everyone knew in April they were coming, but we announced them in September. It's 12th of October, day of recording this in Australia, where I am. and we haven't heard anything apart from one signing,
No.
which has gone down like a fart in a lift.
Yeah. I just sort of
As
trying
a
to be
club,
optimistic about it.
use PR. Use PR, right? Drip feed information. Get fans on side. You can, as a club, when things are going bad, you can put positive spins on a lot of things. But the fact is, silence causes uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get ghosted, it's basically like we're being ghosted by the club.
Yeah.
It's basically we've been speaking to a girl for a good while, or man, depending on which way you swing. We've been speaking to them for a good while. We've got real good connection and good feelings. We've gone on a few dates. We've had a great time, and then suddenly they've just stopped responding.
Yeah.
And it's like that with the club. Or stick on a fans forum where they can answer these questions that the fans have, and go and PR spin it. Work well. Yeah, it might be a tough thing to do, but you can do things that can get the fans on side, that can win them over again. The fans are only like, the fans will always be there for the club.
Yeah.
But they may take breaks. And if you need the money, you need to sort out your PR.
I mean, I don't think I've ever felt so distant from the club just because of the lack of communication with things going on and the stuff that we've done. Has not set us a great path to go down going forward. Like, there doesn't seem to be any forward thinking and any future proofing really to get us up on the right foot. We just spoke about the Wellens thing, and we'll see if you get to the grand final. Look, I think we're pretty lucky that, like, you would imagine. I mean, Paul Rowley's favourite. We will be, won't it? But you would
We'll
imagine
get
that
onto
he's
the
the man.
options in a bit.
Yeah,
In
but
like the next 5 or 10 minutes.
you just, you don't know who's going to be available because everybody's got everything wrapped up. Probably what, June, July for the year after, and yet we're waiting till October, and we'll go. Oh, we'll just see who's left. We'll see who's about.
Yeah, but that's been our way for the past couple of years, which it worked out for certain signings like Kyle Felt. But again, we put the feelers out to him earlier on in the year. But it's like now, it's like you said, we just don't know where the club's going, and the club have the chance to put out good news. They have the chance to change things, and they're just not doing it. They can reverse this tide. They can reverse this momentum, and they've just not. It seems to me like they're choosing not to. Either that, or they don't care enough to. I think they care, but I just don't. I don't think they care what anyone else thinks. I think they've just got this thing of, well, we've had success in the past, but we had success under Anderson, and then we went 6 years without a major trophy, because if you're not including the league leaders in that, and then we didn't go Wembley for over 10 years. We didn't win at Wembley for over 13 years, 14 years. 2021, we won it in a half empty Wembley due to COVID. So, like, we've had periods of, if you don't stay on top of things, they can change. And sports a cycle. We all know sports cycle. You play, obviously for Blackpool, and they've had a good season this year, apart from the final, but we won't talk about that.
No.
But but you've had a good season this year on the whole. But next year you may well not do. Like, sports a cycle, and things change, personnel change, everything. But it seems to me that over the past couple of years, it's been a job for the boys. It's been an in-house sort of mentality with Saints. We've seen it where, people have rose through the ranks exponentially, done great jobs over the past couple of years, over the past years before the past couple, sorry.
Yeah.
just seems to be that, I don't know, just there needs to be a shake-up, I think, of how the club's
you're right.
run as well.
It's a business first and foremost, isn't it? It's a business, and it's a results-based business for everybody, and the results haven't been there, and it's almost a bit like, it's got a bit like, it's my ball and I'm going home type thing.
Yeah.
You
That's the perfect analogy.
know,
Highway or the highway.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. Well, the problem is the higher up you get, the harder it is to sort of force them people to have accountability, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been poor from the people above.
Absolutely. And that's where, like, we talk about coaching options. So ones that have been linked are, we'll talk about the main candidate that was spoken about already this podcast, but Ben Hornby over in Australia, who was former South Sydney interim coach, former South Sydney assistant. Now I think he's at St George, if I remember rightly.
Yes, I want to say yes.
Yes, he is. No, he's still at South Sydney. He was interim last year. Sorry.
Did he play for the Dragons?
He played for the Dragons. Yeah, that's where I had it in my head. So he's still at South Sydney. He's assistant. He was head coach in the interim during Jason Demetriou sacking last season. He's come out as a front runner. Farley, from who's now coaching the referees in Australia.
And has been doing for the last 3 years or something.
Yeah, judging off Ashley Klein's performance, I don't think I want him. But he's had coaching experience, different sort of coaching experience now at the minute. But he's had head coach roles in the lower leagues. He's had assistant roles. Cook Islands as well. Knows the club for his time at Saints, which is
probably
also
arguably the greatest overseas forward that we've ever had.
There's never been many in the modern era, like Super League era, that come over and do well in Super League, to be fair. It's usually the backs do better than the forwards, and then when the English players go over, it's usually the forwards that do better than the backs. It's usually like the opposite way around. Usually because we get them when they're like 42. And
That's true. That's very true. He was hard as nails, though. Absolutely hard as nails.
So, obviously, he knows the club well. Could be an option. And then, obviously, there is the outright favourite by all the bookmakers, by all the fans. And that is Paul Rowley, or Rowley, depending on how you pronounce it. He's, like I said before, he's learned in every role he's gone. He's grew as a coach. He's now so mellow compared to what he used to be in his younger coaching days. He seems to get the best out of his players.
They love him, don't
they? No matter their ability.
They absolutely love him.
And he just seems to... Yeah, he just seems to improve every player that he has.
Yeah. He uses class to it.
He has to be.
He has to be. You're right, he has to be. And if he's not, then I think that's a very, very, very big mistake on behalf of the club. He's proven in Super League. We've spoke about the problems that we potentially have going forward with recruitment. If you want a coach
a lot as well.
Yeah. You want a coach that overachieves with a poor squad, he's your man. And that's exactly where we may well be.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
And I think when he was speaking on Sky a few weeks ago, when he was doing the Saints game, and they asked him a lot of questions, it honestly felt like I was watching it, and the post-game stuff felt like a job interview.
Yeah. Yeah,
because he was like, well, Paul, what do you know your 1, 6 and 7 for Saints?
Yeah.
And he was like, look, that's up to Paul, but... And he went, no, do you know it? And he went, yeah. Like, he alluded to yes. Yes, I do know what my 1, 6 and 7 would be.
And, maybe that's just the coach in him and he can't help that. And that's just the way that he speaks about it. But it did have a real, like you said, come and get me vibe to it.
That's what it felt like.
And there's nowhere else for him to go, luckily for us, if we're saying that we don't know whether we're going to have a coach or not after October, because he can't go. He's not going Warrington because Burgess is staying.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to go at Wigan because he's not getting rid of Pete.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to OKR because Willie Peters is staying.
He's not going to
going to Leeds because Brad Arthur's staying. And even after that, he's not going Wakefield because not getting rid of Powell. And that's it. Oh, Cartwright at Hull might have only just been the other one, but he's not going anywhere. And I'm not being funny when I say this, but if Saints come knocking, you're going there, aren't you?
Leeds came knocking a few years ago, but there's just no one else. And I was looking at the odds of some of the people on the list. I think I've got a screenshot, but there was obviously Rowley was out and out favourite. There they are. Then you've got Ben Gardner. Don't know why he was on the list. He's
because he's going to Perth as
he's
Miles'
assistant.
Yeah.
So he's still at Penrith next year, and then going the year after.
Unless they were thinking he'd come over for 12 months, which I doubt.
Maybe, but why would you?
Seems unlikely.
Furley at 7-2. Ben Hornby at 5-1. Adam O'Brien at 5-1. He's currently in talks with both the Doggies and Manly, I believe, to be an assistant.
There was talks about O'Brien years ago.
Yeah,
before he got the Knights job.
Well, when Holbrook initially left, he was the favourite for the Saints job. And
that's right.
He ended up getting the head coach at Knights. And we got Christian Wolf from the Knights.
That's right.
So that's how it ended up being. That Darryl Powell 7-1. He's not leaving, is he? And also, look at what he did. Look at what he did at Warrington. You're not gonna.
He's one of them West Yorkshire ones anyway. Yeah. They don't like being outside of West Yorkshire.
For some reason, Rowan Smith's on this list. It's 8-1.
Oh, it's just
Steve McNamara at 12-1. I swear they've just
surprised
stuck
he's that
random
high.
names on.
Surprised he's that high.
Obviously he's out of a job and he needs one. And then you got Lee Breers 14-1. I don't think we'll give it a rookie coach, and I don't think he wants to be a head coach. No. Sean Long 14-1. Eamon O'Carroll 16-1. Again, same as the Lee Breers for them two. And then the last two at 50-1s, Sam Burgess and Sean Wayne.
Don't know which one I'd want least. Oh, I do actually.
Yeah.
I do actually. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah. I'd much rather have Wayne. Could you imagine, the amount of times we used to sing Sean Wayne, he's got a big fat head. And if he came up on our big screen in a Saint suit.
That would be an Agent Wayne situation, wouldn't it? Bloody hell.
But yeah, out of that list, there's only really 3 coaches that I think would be, and that would be Hornby, Rowley, or Furley.
Yeah,
it's got to be Rowley. The only way it wouldn't be him is if he has an interview and for some reason doesn't like the way the club is run. That would be the only reason for me that he wouldn't come.
For me, we're crying out for a name that is A, proven in the league, and B, plays attacking rugby. And he has both of them. And for me, if it wasn't him, I think that's why I'm surprised Steve McNamara is so high. Because he's been in there and done it in Super League and needs a job. And he's English as well. It's not like bringing an Aussie over, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm surprised he's 12-1.
Yeah. Saints famously have really only been successful under Australian coaches. I think the only English coach we've won something under was Ellery Hanley.
Yeah.
And that's in the Super League era.
Yeah.
We've only ever done well with Australian coaches. Granted, we've had some stinkers in our time. Paul Royce Simmons, who didn't do great. But, we've had a lot of good ones. Even Millward back in the day, You
I'd
know,
have him back in an heartbeat.
we'll score more than you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You can score 40, we'll score 42.
Will we lose by 50 or will we win by 50? Who knows? But we're going to punch some tackle bags with tennis balls in our hands, that's for sure. What a bloke. What
He's still at the Dragons, I think. Middleward. I think
him.
I was looking up. I think he's a board member at the Dragons.
Is it? We could do with a few of them. Bring him back.
Do you remember when he went for a spell of keep coming back? Didn't he go to Cass for a point?
Yeah.
And then he went to Wakefield or somewhere. He just did like a tour of Yorkshire at one point. Like you said, no cheerleaders allowed. And then you had who else have we had over the years? Obviously Roy Simmons and
we mentioned Potter.
I loved that in your podcast this week.
What was that?
When he won 2 Dally M's and you were like,
oh yeah, I had no idea.
Neither did I. It shocked me.
Yeah, did he say Michael Potter?
Yeah.
And I was like, it just didn't click with me straight away. And then when he said Mick Potter, I was like that Mick Potter? I had no idea he was a player.
Yeah, neither did I. I was like, I didn't know he was that good.
No, exactly.
I was like, how could he?
Never ever would have thought.
Maybe that's why the Aussies were so shocked he did so badly at the West Tigers. Then he went over. So I wonder if he played for them. I've not even seen his coaching career, but I think, I think there are options at the minute, and Rowley's got to do it. He's just too good.
Yeah, I think it could be, and I think he deserves a shot at a big club as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not really had one, has he? He's done wonders with Salford. He's done well at Leeds and Toronto. He's done well wherever he's gone, and I think the important things are players want to play for him, and he plays nice-looking rugby, and I think that's exactly what we need.
Does well on a low budget.
Yeah, and he'd probably have the biggest budget he's ever had in his life. You know, whether
definitely. Well, I don't know. He had Toronto, didn't he?
I don't know. Well, yeah, that's true, but they did spend £5 million a year on Sonny Bill Williams or something. So.
Actually, that was Brian McDermott, wasn't it? Because they sacked him for it.
It was actually. Was it like £2.5 million a year over 2 years?
Yeah, it was something ridiculous, man. He was the first £1 million player.
Absolute crackers, that was.
Yeah. Well, he never got paid anyway, so.
That's true. That's true.
But overall, the season's been a disappointment for Saints fans.
Yeah.
You know, I've put what went right and what went wrong. I don't think much went right. I think there was some aspects like Harry Robertson, the Shane Wright try towards the end, didn't do well in the Challenge Cup.
No.
We went through a spell of getting absolutely blitzed when we played big teams, and then that suddenly stopped, and we were just about being in with a fight. And then it was, I don't know. There's not been much that's gone right this year, and I think I think the news early on that Morgan Knowles was leaving was a big blow for the fans and the team. I don't know. I just don't know where we go. It's depressing when you think about it.
It is. You know, we had.
They call Saints fans spoiled, and we are. You know, we're not like.
So we should be.
Yeah.
You know, so we should be. He's the biggest club in the world, mate. I think. So he's had 3 years. We finished 3rd, 6th, and 5th. First year we had 2 semi-finals. We had 2 quarterfinals, and then we should have had another 2 quarterfinals, but we managed to get another semi and a quarterfinal.
Mm-hmm.
But we were nowhere near throughout the course of the season. You know, we scraped into 6th place in 24.
And we were texting that if we had any steel about us, we should have finished 2nd because it was there for the taking. We
could have finished 2nd with that game against Wigan. If we'd have won that and then I'd won the 2 league games, we could have well finished 2nd. But because we got out, at the very worst, I think we should have finished 3rd. Looking at them games that we had left and being where we were, we hadn't, like you say, if we had any steel about us, we'd have finished third.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we failed twice against Lee, pretty miserably.
Failed against Wigan, failed against KR.
Failed miserably against KR and miserably against Wigan, which was disappointing considering the start that we had. But again, that Wigan game, use that as an example. I think, what did it finish, 18-4?
Yeah.
We had more than enough ball on their line during that game to match and even beat the 18 points that they scored.
Agreed.
We just couldn't get over the line. Literally.
Agreed.
So,
and the League game, we very nearly got nilled had it not been for Tristan Sailor moving to fullback and setting up Harry Robertson in the final minute. And that would have been the first time we'd have ever got nilled in Super League, had that have happened.
Really? Right. So I think, the things that went right, I think, like you said, Robertson is, and how much Wellens had to do with that, you don't know, but Robertson is the only sort of real bright spark over the last 12 months, I think. Because he's not played Whitby, he's not really played Dagnall, although when he has played Dagnall, I think Dagnall's looked incredible.
Creates something out of nothing.
He grabs the game at times. He's grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. And to do that as a winger, I think is pretty difficult. Which is why I think he should get the 5 ahead of Murphy. Because I don't think Murphy's got that in him to do that, despite how quick he is. But Dagnall's not slow. So I would say things that went right is probably just the youngsters that have come in and put in a decent shift, like Robertson and Dagnall. And I think that's about all that I can muster, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been a season of chaos, been a season of silence, and it's been a season of it's been an unprecedented season that I think everyone saw coming at the start of the year. But I don't think we've seen it unfolding how it did. I've at the time I said I thought we should have moved on from Wellens halfway through the year when the fan base were being so horrible to his family, and I didn't like seeing that. And
no, that was around like Magic Weekend, wasn't it? It was outrageous.
I class his family as some of my friends, and I hated seeing what I was seeing on social media, and I was like, look, the club just needs to end it now. And you know what? I'm glad the club didn't. I'm glad the club gave him until the end of the year for that aspect, because I think that period where we got ourselves up and in and around the fighting for second, I was like, okay, things are moving. But then we lost the 3 big games in a row, and it was just kind of like, well, it's the same old story, unfortunately, under Wellens, which has been a shame. And I think, like we said earlier on, Paul Wellens will have, without a doubt, the hearts of Saints fans, real Saints fans. There's no doubt about that, and I hope that he goes, he learns, he becomes a great coach no matter where he is. He thrives under that, and then he can maybe one day return as a much more well-rounded coach. That's all I can hope from now.
Yeah, and I think he will. We mentioned it before. Wherever he ends up, he'll have a job. And
feels different. Feels different to the Cunningham sacking.
Yeah. It almost sort of come full circle. It went on that long. It sort of almost come full circle, hasn't it? And it's like it just got this bizarre feeling to it. Paul Wellens is probably my favourite player of all time. Like growing up and things like that. It's definitely top 2.
Yeah, it's definitely top 3 for me.
Yeah. Behind Cunningham. And the pair of is funny. Like the favourite ever players and probably the 2 worst coaches we've ever had. But I wanted Paul Wellens to do so well, man. Like, he was my hero growing up. Unfortunately, it's not worked out like that. But like you say, I think he goes with everybody's best wishes, and I'm sure everybody wishes him the absolute utmost success in the future, whatever he does.
Yeah, but going off the two parallels, and you're saying it's another club legend that's failed coaching
Mm.
wise. Can't forget that night in Penrith. He gave us the best night of our lives,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
no matter where you were watching it, whether you were at the game, whether you were at home, whether you were in a pub, everyone. He brought the town together and he united the world. I think I think even a lot of rival fans can even say that the game that unfolded was a spectacular watch.
nobody expected us to go there and win that game.
No, I
Nobody.
remember the handicap being like Penrith -32,
Mm.
and I stuck
Not
a
one
I
single person thought we were going
no
to win that game. I
no
didn't.
the Aussie press, mate, were just going in. I didn't either. I didn't until 2 hours before kickoff when I was in Thailand, and I was you can't gamble in Thailand, like
All
all
right,
online
okay.
gamble. I was trying to VPN it, everything. I ended up texting a mate about the game and just went, mate, put on Saints to win. I went, I've just got a feeling. I just went, I don't know about it, just put it on. And he went, all right, mate. Sent him the money so he could put the bet on for me, and it came in, and I was like, oh, I was so ecstatic when it did. And that was the only time I felt like, yeah, we're going to win this. Because all the
Yeah,
way through, I was like, we're going to get battered here. We're going to get battered. This is like unprecedented, like, you know. But that night, he gave us the best moment. Seeing, Willie Talau, Jammer,
yeah,
Zenteya, all these former Saints players in the changing room after it. It was just like seeing it panning round to them all. It was just amazing to see. Like he united everyone
yeah,
that day.
yeah. It was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable, and no one can take that away from him.
No,
For everything that went wrong after, he'll always have that.
exactly. So Paul, you go out, you go find yourself a new one, and more importantly, like thank you
Yeah,
as a fan of yourself and the club. I think that's one
yeah,
thing we can do. And maybe we will bring someone home because I've just mentioned Willie Talau. His son Tommy Talau was linked with us this week, which we
yeah.
didn't mention earlier on.
No, that would be good.
Born and
That's
raised
probably the
in
best
St
one.
Helens,
Yeah, yeah,
so he
yeah.
wouldn't count as a quota player as well if he did sign.
Even better. Then we'd
Because I
still
think
have 10 more.
hey, -1 for Iggy Parsley, but
Oh yeah, yeah,
But it's been a great episode to film with you. I hope you've managed to get everything out of your system. Itch.
yeah. It's been good. I've enjoyed it. So thank you for inviting me on.
It's all right, and it's been a pleasure to do it. And if you guys like the episode, please like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you need to do. This has been the Super League Pom-Cast. I've been Johnny. He's been Callum, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.